we've always been a Eucharistic church, meaning we celebrate communion, and that celebrating communion is really important to us. But we've now decided to celebrate communion weekly, which really goes back to the ancient tradition of the church and the Reformed Church. But we're not doing it just because it's a ritual or it's a good thing to do. It's because somehow the world stands still when people are receiving communion, receiving the elements of bread and wine from another person. I recently had a colleague here who said that she had been serving churches for years and years and has served communion a lot, but she had never been in a place where every single person that she served the bread to stopped and had absolutely rapt attention. She said it was as if the whole world stopped. And she said, there's something special here. There's something here is right. And it's that rightness that we're kind of celebrating. We're celebrating what's right with the world. I mean, there's a lot of things that are wrong with the world. There are a lot of things that aren't working. But 7th Avenue is where church works again. And 7th Avenue, we really try to focus on what is right in our lives, what is right in the world, what is right in the city. And then when we understand what's right, then we can help change and transform and work for growth on that which isn't right or which isn't working. We use Eucharist here because it means Thanksgiving. It's a meal of Thanksgiving. We don't focus on Jesus' death. We focus on the resurrection. We focus on how that resurrection speaks to our resurrection, how we're transformed, how we're changed, how we become the beloved persons of God that we are. And there's something about the table, there's something about when we gather at the table where we hear that everyone is welcome, where we hear that we are loved from the top of our head to our toenails, that we belong, and that God calls us beloved. And there's something about the communion table, there's something about the Eucharist where it's a thin space, and a thin space is where heaven and earth meet, and the layer between those two realities is paper thin. That's what happens at 7th Avenue when we celebrate the Eucharist. We enter into that place of thinness. And I'm excited that 7th Avenue, the board here, which is called the session, it's like the council, when they decided that it was time to celebrate communion or to have Eucharist weekly, it was a way of saying yes to ourselves and yes to God. And yes to the fact that we're beloved. Yes to the fact that we are known and loved. And yes that we belong. And so the Eucharist is the way that God, in a sense, makes love with us. When we receive that bread and when we taste the fruit of the vine, there is, in a sense, where God's love becomes so indwelled in us that we understand that we're loved so that we can be empowered to change the world. So the Eucharist is really a subversive radical ritual, a subversive radical sacrament. Because once we understand we're loved, we can't but change. Once we know we're loved, we can't but change. And that's what the Eucharist allows us, empowers us to do. So come and join us.